Hey everyone, Kegan here, and today we're going to be walking through some of the updates and changes that Wheelhouse has put out in the last couple months. These are more minor updates and changes, so you may or may not have noticed some of them. We will be going through these changes here on the change log, as well as a couple additional ones that aren't on the change log. I'll also show you how to access the change log from your own Wheelhouse account so you can track the write-ups and changes for yourself moving forward. All right, let's get into it. All right, first things first, if you want to access the changelog from your own Wheelhouse account, you will just go to the chat icon down here in the bottom right, and then click the check out our latest updates link right here. And that'll take you to the Canny changelog page where you can scroll and check out these updates and their write-ups for yourself. A couple other general updates have to do with naming conventions, and I will show you this on the individual listings reservations page. So we now have changed the name from average daily rate excluding fees to average nightly rate excluding fees. So this is your average nightly rate without fees listed here. And then nightly revenue is total revenue for the stay without fees. And we've also changed this to default to showing these two columns. So now if you want to see your ADR or total revenue with fees, you will have to add those columns. But we now default to showing without fees. This is the case on the individual reservations table, as well as the performance page reservations table here at the bottom. We now show average nightly rate excluding fees, nightly revenue excluding fees, and default to these columns. All right, the next set of updates is for any of the pages, any of the pricing pages, or anywhere you can access the filter button. So first, we have reordered the structure here for the filters. It is now broken up into 4 sections, which are listing features, listing status, historical metrics, and future metrics. So there's 4 sections there. This layout is also being used for the columns here on the pricing pages. So listing features, listing status, historical, and future metrics are the 4 sections. We've added a couple filters here, the first of which is the admin of listing filter. You can now use this filter to only see listings from a specific admin for the properties. So if you are, for example, a revenue management consultant, then this will be really helpful if you want to filter your portfolio just for a specific account that you are managing. We've also added the admin of listing as a column. So if I go here and under the team section here, I add this admin column. I can see now who the admin is of each listing. We added a creation date column as well. So if I add this column here, we can now see the date that each of my listings was added to Wheelhouse. This is the date the listing was brought into Wheelhouse and not the date that the listing was created in the PMS or channel. So just want to point that out. It is the date it was added into Wheelhouse. We've also added a new column called asking rate, and it can be used for either historical metrics or future metrics. For example, I can look at my average asking rate in the next 7 days. We can see the average asking rate for each of my listings over the next 7 days, and I can also sort by this column just like any other. A couple other details for the pricing pages. One is specific to pricing settings. If I am editing properties and I use this settings dropdown in the top right, you'll notice that these icons were added, which you may recognize from the individual listing page. Another note is on the pricing pages, for larger accounts especially, you may notice the initial load time is a little bit slower. That is intentional. After the initial load, the user experience should be much better, much faster, and you won't have to now load properties 50 by 50 to update settings or export any data. All right, the next set of updates is on the performance page, previously known as bookings page. The first update is that the full suite of filter options is now available on this page, so you have access to all of these. The second update is for the comparison button here. When you add a sets comparison, you can only add sets that are 250 listings or smaller. So any larger sets over 250 cannot be overlaid on this page. Third update is in the top right here. We have this average per listing button. So when I toggle this on, I am now seeing the average revenue per listing per month versus previously I was looking at total revenue for all of my listings per month. So we can use this to toggle on average revenue here. Another big update was to the overlays section on the sales analysis chart. So we now have some additional overlays, including adjusted RevPAR and bookable nights. Those can now be viewed as overlays. We've also updated the overlay dropdown to have this little closeout button. So now it's easier to remove those overlays. And also when you export this chart, the overlays will come through with that export. Another small option on this page is actually at the reservations table below. The listing names are now their own hyperlinks that you can use to go to specific properties. All right, the next set of updates is on the individual listing page, specifically on the individual listing calendar. There is an update to the UI for the reservations on the calendar. So you can see the highlighted green days are book days. Nothing new there, but the design is slightly different. So you may notice these little bubbles that almost look like chat icons. Those indicate the total revenue without fees for that reservation. So total revenue without fees for the whole stay. And then the fading in and fading out here indicates back-to-back reservations or the check-in and check-out for that stay. So for example, this reservation, the guest checks in on August 9th and then checks out on August 13th. So staying for 1, 2, 3, 4 nights there. The second update on the individual listing page is actually on the settings chart here. When you hover over a specific date, it now doesn't just show the date, but also shows an abbreviation for the day of week. So helpful as you're scanning your pricing on this chart. All right, the next update is on the billing subscriptions page. The big update here is that you have access to the full suite of filter options here. This is really helpful if you're trying to move listings in or out of paid tiers in bulk. I think the most common filters used here will be bedrooms, tags, and market. And the next couple updates are on the sets page. So the first of which is that when you go to the metrics page for one of your sets, we have updated the trends tab to now be on this page. So previously we had these 4 sections: overview, calendar, metrics, and graphs. We have recently added the trends tab, which is a really slick way to look at your different metrics here by month and year over year for your set. If you're familiar with our markets page, then you might recognize these charts. All right, and now the final update here on the sets page has to do with assigning a set as a default set for your listings. So let's take my Seattle 2-bedroom listing set here. I'm going to click these 3 dots to show listing metrics. What I've done here is I'm now showing the set average, so all the properties I've added to it, my assigned listings, so these are my own listings, assigned listing average, and then the 2 listings from my own portfolio that I've added. What I'm going to do is click these 3 dots, and now I can make this set the default for this listing for both of my properties here. And then when I go to the individual listing page for this listing, go to settings. When I overlay my comp set information here, so the set median and 25th to 75th, this is the set that I designated as the default set. I can still go up here and toggle between different sets if I have them, but this Seattle 2-bedroom new listing set is the default now. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in for these quick updates. Keep your eye out for more updates in the future and videos to follow. Thanks.